start over again. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for being here. Um, we're talking about caregiver respite through adult daycare programs. So I'm going to talk about my favorite topic in the whole wide world, which is adult daycare. And this page shows our sponsors, and we're grateful to all of the sponsors for making this session happen. And my first slide talks about adult daycare. Adult daycare is often overlooked as to its importance in the overall long-term care industry. I like to refer to it as the best kept secret in the long-term care continuum because most people don't talk about it. They talk about care homes and foster homes. They talk about assisted living. They talk about nursing homes, but very seldom is adult daycare included in that list. So that's important to remember that we are very important in the whole continuum. In a culture of keeping mom and dad at home to age in place, adult daycare is an affordable solution for working caregivers. And I'll show you slides later that show you the comparison of costs for different services. Adult daycare programs in Hawaii are licensed by the state of Hawaii, and annual inspections by the Department of Health ensure that the highest standards of care are being met. There are 31 licensed adult daycare day health centers in Hawaii at this time. We are on Kauai, Molokai, Maui, and the Big Island, and Oahu, of course. And there have been several closures over the past couple of years because of the pandemic, and many of the centers didn't reopen. So like on the Big Island only has one adult daycare in the Hilo area. So I'm on a project working to open one up at least one up on the Kailua Kona side because it's sorely needed over there. I'm not sure how many Kauai has. Maui has 4. And like I said, I think we have 25 or 26 of the total amount on the island. According to the National Adult Day Services Association, there are approximately 5,000 adult daycare centers nationwide. And the abundance of centers over the past 2 decades corresponds to the increasing numbers of seniors that really need the community-based services. An overview of adult daycare shows that they're non-residential facilities that support health, nutrition, physical exercise, entertainment, and socialization. Activities stimulate both mind and body. It helps delay the progression of dementia and depression by keeping the participants busy and stimulated. There have been studies that show that inactive seniors with dementia tend to decline faster than those who are keeping active and engaged. It helps delay admission to expensive residential long-term care facilities. Nobody wants to go to a nursing home. And because our culture here in Hawaii is keep mom and dad home with us, adult daycare centers are very beneficial to everybody. And adult daycare centers give needed structure to participants' daily activities. I will tell you that during the pandemic, some families decided to keep mom and dad at home instead of bringing them to the adult daycare center where they were used to coming every single day. And these families all reported, every one of them, that mom and dad they declined both cognitively and physically during this time. And it's not the family's fault because the family doesn't have a day structure of entertainment and stimulation and stuff like that because they have other things they have to do for the family as well. So keeping them active again keeps progression of dementia from slowing down. Excuse me. Adult daycare provides urgently needed respite for caregivers, which is what we're talking about here today. And even caregivers that don't work outside of the home need respite from their caregiving responsibilities. And adult daycare is one of the most important resources for families and caregivers. And again, it's the most economical answer to care needs. Services and activities that we offer. We assist with eating, taking medications, toileting, and walking. We have educational programs and mental stimulation. Health monitoring, if it's asked for or ordered, is vital signs, meal and fluid intake. Arts and crafts, field trips, and I'll show you pictures of field trip in a little bit. Holiday and birthday parties, we love to party, and we decorate for holidays really a lot. And music therapy. We have social activities, relaxation techniques, exercise programs, cooking demonstrations, games, pet therapy, and lots of love. Bingo is a big deal, at least at our facility. Every Friday, it's the biggest crowd on that day because they have so much fun playing bingo. And this is just one of our physical games, basketball. Even the folks that are in wheelchairs can participate. And so what does adult daycare look like? It looks like fun all the time. It's just fun. We do arts and crafts, like on the right. That was a Christmas decoration, and puzzles on the left. And we had a lady come in and do chair hula lessons, and that's what the ladies in the left are doing. And then one of our outings was to Honolulu at Christmas time. Took a bus down there and got to see all the Christmas decorations. So again, it's fun all the time. So, some myths about adult daycare. Myth number 1, adult daycare is only for old people. In reality, while adult daycare centers primarily serve older adults, we also have a wide range of ages that we take care of. Many attendees are younger seniors who benefit from social and health services offered. It's a misconception that these centers are only for the elderly. They're for anyone who needs daytime support and engagement. There are people with developmental disabilities that need adult daycare because they can't be alone by themselves during the day. And they also need physical and mental stimulation. So a lot of facilities won't take people less than 65, but there are some that will take younger folks that need their assistance. Myth number 2, my loved one isn't social, so they wouldn't benefit. In reality, adult daycare isn't just for extroverts. These centers offer a variety of activities to suit different personalities, including quiet spaces for reading or solo activities. If someone doesn't want to participate in the activities of the group, one of the staff will work with them one-on-one so they will still be active. Even for less social individuals, the mere presence in a different environment can provide mental stimulation and a subtle sense of community. At the end of the day, we all crave connection regardless of how social we may be. So after a senior becomes acclimated to the adult daycare center, it becomes a huge social network. Everybody talking, everybody doing activities together. They meet new friends daily, and it's like one big ohana. Myth number 3, my loved one won't leave my side. So transitioning to adult daycare can be challenging, especially for those who are accustomed to being with family all the time. However, most centers have experienced staff trained to help new attendees adjust. Also, the other clients help them adjust as well because they're always, when somebody new comes in, they are talking to them and inviting them to join in the games, and it's a very social situation. Gradual introduction and consistent routines can help your loved one become more comfortable with spending time away from you. And I get questions all the time from family members about what if mom absolutely refuses to go to adult daycare? The first step would be to let them visit a center with you during the most active time, usually in the morning when all the activities get started. And then if they still refuse, include the doctor. And at this point in time, I will tell you that sometimes it's permissible to do little white lies with your seniors who have dementia, because it's useless to argue with them because you will never win an argument with them. But if you do a little white lie like the one I'm going to tell you about, it sometimes works. So one of my first clients adamantly refused to come to adult daycare. She said it's only for old people. So her daughter tried a lot of tactics to try to get in, and none of them worked. So she talked to her mother's doctor, and they came up with the idea that the doctor would tell mom that she had to go because it was good for her health. That's all it took. The voice of authority, the doctor, told her she had to go, and she listened. So after that, she enjoyed it so much that she started getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready to come. And she has been with me for 8 years now, loving every minute of it. That's my favorite story. So little white lies is okay, just to let you know. Myth number 4, adult daycare centers are depressing places. Far from being gloomy, modern adult daycare centers are vibrant and engaging. They offer a variety of activities like group exercise programs, live music, arts and crafts, all aimed at enhancing the members' quality of life. Many centers incorporate bright colors, bright decorations, comfortable seating, so they're far from depressing. Does this look depressing? No. This is one of our Halloween costume contests, and some of the costumes were amazing. But we had 2 donuts that year, a big bear, a baseball fan, and many more. So we just had a lot of fun. But it was not depressing. Myth number 5: it's too expensive. When compared to other forms of long-term care, adult daycare is the only affordable option left. It is significantly less expensive than an in-home care and assisted living, and many centers offer memberships, flexibility, and some of the costs might be covered by long-term care insurance or veterans benefits. So here's a cost comparison. This is the daily rate. So homemaker services or homemaker health aides are about $150 a day. Adult daycare ranges from $75 to $95 a day. Assisted living is $141 a day, and nursing home care varies from $255 to $290. Now these figures are about 3 years old. The Genworth, which is an insurance company, comes out with these reports every couple of years. They're working on this year's, but they haven't quite come out with it. So know that these prices are higher, except for adult daycare. And then this shows you the annual charges. So homemaker and health aides, $64,000 to $68,000. Adult daycare, $18,000 to $20,000. One assisted living, $60,000. Semi-private rooms in nursing homes, $144,000 up to $165,000 for private. So you can see the economical benefits of adult daycare. And I like to make sure everybody understands that, because not only is it economical for you guys, it also saves the state millions of dollars by not having them go into the long-term care facilities where they end up having to pay for it. So other payment sources for adult daycare, besides your long-term care insurance, Medicaid covers it. The Kapuna Care Program covers it, and Joel will talk about that later. And then private pay. And right now there's a national campaign to get Medicare to include adult daycare as a benefit. And that campaign is being put on by the National Adult Day Services Association, and I'm on their board, so I'm big into that. Also, I have gotten grants, and I'm sure other of my colleagues have gotten grants also, that helps with partial tuition assistance. So if the facility is fortunate enough to get that grant, talk to them about it if it's a financial burden to you, and if your Kapuna qualifies, then they can get partial tuition assistance. Okay, statistics on our caregivers. In 2020, there were approximately 157,000 caregivers in Hawaii. They put in 81 million hours of unpaid care valued at $1.6 billion. That's a lot of money. The majority of caregivers work outside of the home. The stress of caregiving can have a huge impact on the health of the caregiver, and caregiver support groups are extremely important. Okay, when should you opt for an adult daycare center? It's usually challenging to admit that you need help, and I understand this, especially if you've been a highly independent person used to caring for others all of your life. And if you're the caregiver, it may be equally difficult to consider allowing a stranger to care for your beloved family member. As with any service, the best time to start exploring what's available is before you actually need it. According to Elder Care Online, you should seriously consider adult daycare when a senior can no longer structure his or her own daily activities, is isolated, and desires companionship. So not everybody that comes to adult daycare has dementia. A lot of people, seniors that are in the neighborhood and live alone, like to come just for the activities and the socialization. If the senior can't be safely left alone at home, and if the senior lives with someone who works outside of the home or who is frequently away from home or for other reasons. Benefits of adult daycare for family caregivers. As a family caregiver, you dedicate yourself to the well-being of your aging loved one. While this role is incredibly rewarding, it can also be demanding and exhausting. Adult daycare provides a supportive solution. The following are the top 5 benefits that adult daycare offers family caregivers. helping them find balance and support in their caregiving journey. Okay, it gives much needed personal time. Adult daycare centers give caregivers the gift of personal time. This break is essential for attending to personal needs, running errands, or simply resting. It's an important, it's an opportunity to recharge, which is crucial for maintaining your own health and well-being. Knowing your loved one is safe and engaged allows you to take this time guilt-free. Number 2, it reduced caregiver stress and burnout. Caring for an aging loved one can be stressful, leading to caregiver burnout. However, adult day services alleviate this by sharing the caregiving responsibilities. The professional care provided to your loved one reduces the physical and emotional strain on you, helping prevent burnout and making caregiving sustainable in the long run. Number 3, enhance social connections for caregivers. Adult day centers often provide support groups and networks for family caregivers. This is a valuable benefit as it connects you with others in similar situations. These connections offer emotional support, practical advice, and a sense of community, reminding you that you're not alone in your caregiving journey. The support group is a safe place for you. You can talk about your frustration, your anger, your fear, your guilt. You can yell, you can cry, whatever you need to do without judgment, because guess what? Everybody else is experiencing the same journey as you are. So it really helps. It's very cathartic. Oops. I'm sorry, back up here. Okay, enjoying the solitude of home. Okay, a distinct advantage of adult daycare is that it offers family caregivers the unique opportunity to have the house to themselves. Unlike in-home care services where you might have to leave the house so you can be by yourself or to relax, adult day services provide care for your loved one in a different location. This means that caregivers can enjoy their home environment in complete solitude, providing a peaceful and private space to unwind, focus on personal projects, or simply enjoy the quiet. This aspect of adult daycare is invaluable as it allows caregivers to rejuvenate in their own space, surrounded by their personal comforts without the need to physically remove themselves from their home to get a break. Now, I have to confess to you that I really enjoy my alone time too in my house. And so when my husband's out doing errands or whatever, I enjoy my alone time. I can get lazy, I can watch my shows, or I can eat something naughty, and I don't feel guilty. So I know it's not exactly the same, but I understand it. And number 5 is improved family dynamics. Utilizing adult daycare can positively impact family dynamics. It can reduce the tension and fatigue often associated with full-time caregiving, allowing you to spend more quality, stress-free time with your loved one. And this shift can strengthen your relationship as the interactions become more about companionship rather than and less about caregiving duties. So adult daycare is a win-win. Ultimately, adult day services offer more than just care for seniors. They provide family caregivers with invaluable support, resources, and time to maintain their own lives. Embracing these services can transform your caregiving experience, making it more sustainable, enjoyable, and fulfilling. Remember, taking care of yourself is just as important as taking care of your loved one. And with that, I will turn it over to Stacy. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. I had one more slide. This is my favorite slide. I always show it. I've decided to be happy because it is good for my health. Now, enjoy, Stacy. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Kathy. Can you hear me okay? All right. Okay, I'm gonna start. I'm Stacy Honma. I'm with Maluhia Adult Day Health. And today I'm gonna share about what Adult Day Health is and how we can help caregivers with respite. Next slide. I'll start with some general information. We're located at the Maluhia Hospital. Maluhia was opened in 1923 as a Medicare certified facility serving individuals in need of long-term care or short-term restorative care. We're located on the basement level of the facility, and the program was opened in 1981 to the community. We're licensed by the Department of Health, Office of Healthcare Assurance. So we do have annual surveyors come in and check our program and our facility to make sure we're following all of the regulations. Okay. Our hours are Monday through Friday, 7:30 to 5:30. We're temporarily closed on Saturdays and all state holidays. And generally, there's 3 other day health programs on the island. Our sister company, Leahi Hospital, and there's also Central Union Adult Day Health. And all 3 of our programs are closed on Saturdays. Next slide. I'm going to talk about day health, which is the medical model of care. So adult day health offers the same social benefits as adult day care, which is what Kathy just talked about and shared. But adult day health provides a little more hands-on medical care by licensed and professional staff. And the staff includes an RN or a few RNs, LPN, CNAs, dietitian, and social worker, to name a few. This model of care also provides on-site therapies such as physical, occupational, and speech therapy. Another difference is that daily activities are planned and overseen by a certified recreation therapist. And so these are some of the differences of what an adult day health program offers. This model of care includes more assistance with ADLs and nursing services that may include medication management, tube feeding, diabetes, insulin management, G-tube wound care, pain management, and ostomy care, to name a few. So again, it takes it one step further by looking a little bit more closely to the medical care in addition to the socialization that adult daycare would offer. Next slide. Who we help? We help participants who can benefit from a social program and who also has a few or maybe just, or I mean, someone who has a chronic health condition or even a few chronic health conditions that can benefit from more medical oversight. So some of the chronic conditions we often see are Alzheimer's disease and other dementia, diabetes, depression, heart disease, cancer, and arthritis. We also help caregivers, families and caregivers who are in need of peace of mind, knowing that their loved one is safe during the day. We help caregivers who need support, more education, and most importantly, respite to support better care at home and avoid caregiver burnout. Next slide. Eligibility. Each of our 3 centers, I'll speak for Central Union too, but we all kind of have our own eligibility. So it's best to call each center and talk directly with them. For Maluhia, there's 4 things we look at for eligibility. One is the participant must possess strength and endurance to participate in the program and the willingness to strive for a higher level of independence. So what this means is if somebody is bedridden, they don't get out of bed, they have no desire to thrive or the willingness to go to a program, they may not be appropriate. The second eligibility is the participant must have actively involved family members and or caregivers. It's also beneficial that the participant has a good relationship with their PCP. Now, the caregiver can also be someone not living here. We have a few participants now where their caregiver resides on the mainland, and there's a lot of communication that goes back and forth. So as long as the caregiver can be an active role in the care, this would meet the eligibility. The third thing is the participant must have behavior that is acceptable to the functioning of the program and does not compromise or pose risk for self and others. So they must be functioning in a group setting. Oftentimes the behaviors at home and what happens in a center is very different and surprises a lot of families. So we have to make sure that behavior is acceptable to everyone. And last, the participant must be able to bear some weight and offer some assistance on transferring to a chair or toilet. Staff are not allowed to lift or carry participants. One of the features that we do have is we have a SAR lift, so that allows for some assistance on transfers. But generally, if the family cannot get them into the car, or I mean, they can use handy van or transport, but they have to be able to at least stand and bear some weight so that we can transfer them from either wheelchair to a chair or wheelchair to a toilet. Again, each of the day health centers, look at these things and they may have eligibility that is slightly different from our center, but these are the 4 things that we look at to qualify. Okay, next slide. So what are the benefits of adult day health? One is, sorry, I don't want to go over the same things that Kathy did. But one of the benefits of adult day health is the assessments and observations that help promote early detection of things like urinary tract infection, dietary nutrition problems, diabetic related problems, cellulitis, pneumonia, and even the smallest changes are communicated between the family and staff in an effort to encourage quick medical intervention through their PCP. So one example of this is that we'll call her Auntie Laura. She's 99 years old. She is very close to her 100th birthday. About a month ago, she came down with just a common cold. She stayed out of the program for about 2 weeks, was cleared to return to the program. And, she's very vibrant, talkative, social, alert, but she does require quite a lot of assistance toileting and in walking. So upon her return, the first couple of days was fine. She seemed normal. And one day after lunch, the staff, the CNAs, saw her with her head down on a table. And when they approached her, they asked her how she was doing. And she said, I'm fine. I'm just taking a nap. But that prompted the CNA staff to report to the RN. And what the RN did from there was take her into the nursing station to assess. She was able to check her O2 saturation and was found there was low. So she provided supplemental oxygen. And the RN immediately called the caregiver and told the caregiver, I think because of what happened about a month ago, given her age, given, just she's a little bit more fatigued, you really should take her to urgent care and have her checked out. Something just normal like that, which we would just think, oh, she's just tired, is caught really quickly by the nurses on site because they are very involved in the care. They are not RNs that sit in an office and they're hands-on with the participants every day. So through this, she was taken to the urgent care and found that she had pneumonia. She just returned for her to celebrate her 100th birthday at the center. But I really believe through this intervention, I think without the nurses catching it really quickly, I don't know what would have happened. And so we're really happy that she could come to the center to celebrate with us. So those are just one of the kinds of things that the nursing care can pick up on. There's been many cases that I've seen so far of just, the client scratching their leg and it looks a little bit red, but when the nurses look at it, they're like, oh, call the family. And I'm kind of thinking, well, are we going to call the family about that? But they'll call and sure enough, ends up being cellulitis or something like that, and the participant quickly goes on antibiotics, or we've caught a lot of things through just observations and assessments, and that is one of the big benefits of being at an adult day help program. The second benefit that I like to share is that adult day help offers an interdisciplinary team approach to care. And this means that there's a team of nurses, CNAs. Our CNAs are very involved as well and terrific in reporting and observing and noticing changes. Dietitian, social worker, and therapists who all collaborate together with a common set of goals and purpose. We make decisions together, and we also involve the family in this communication. So there's a real group team approach along with the PCP to make sure that we're looking at the participants' health and well-being. Okay, next slide. How adult day health and adult daycare supports persons with dementia and those with memory loss. Well, it provides a safe, nurturing, supportive space and accepting space for participants and caregivers. At Malahia, we deal with the most problematic and challenging behaviors, and that includes agitation, anxiety, delusions, hallucinations, irritability that comes with memory loss, wandering, restlessness. And how we support and deal with these issues are we try to observe and assess the causes of the behavior. So is the participant in pain? Are they scared? Is it recent changes in medication? Is there triggers? And we try to work with that and communicate with the caregiver about these behaviors. What we like to do is provide, with the monitoring, provide notes to the families on the days that we see these certain behaviors, the times we see it, and we like to provide a summary to the family to share with their PCP. And from there, it's something that we don't ask anybody to go on meds or anything like that, but we ask the family to talk with their PCP about the behaviors we're seeing in the program. And through that, hopefully we can come to a place where the participant can be in the center and, be happy and not discharge because we cannot handle the challenging behaviors. So I feel like we really support participants and caregivers in with memory loss. For new participants entering the program, we like to make sure we set them up for success, especially if we know there's behaviors. So some of the things we do is we may do temporary shortened hours in the beginning and have them work their way into the program slowly. And we do our best to make sure we don't turn anyone away. We try our best to make sure we work with the family closely on these issues. Next slide. Adult day health also supports caregivers. Like Kathy mentioned, it's, having your loved one at the center allows time for yourself. It, provides you reassurance and support that everything will be okay. Some of the changes in the behaviors that you're seeing is common. Oftentimes we hear that all the time from families that, oh, they're doing this. Is that common? Oh, it's really common. Oh, really? Oh, I'm so thankful that other people. So just the reassurance and support to caregivers is really helpful. I think what we've found is that over time, there's so many challenges for the caregivers. Culture plays a big part in it. I don't want to put my parents in a program, or my parents don't want to go. Guilt. I feel bad leaving them at the center all day. It's an inconvenience to caregivers. Your whole routine changes. You got to drop them off. You got to pick the senior up. Or a caregiver has to deal with a senior saying, I don't want to go. Financial strain is also a big challenge, and just being unaware of resources. And sometimes it's even the caregiver believes they can do a better job. So it's important for us to explain and help caregivers understand what the program is, what we do to support, and just kind of handhold them through this process, because it's very overwhelming for caregivers taking on this role, especially if the senior has behavior issues. Next slide. So again, there's 3 day health centers on the island. We're Maluhia. Our sister company is Leahi Adult Day Health Center in Kaimuki. And there's also Central Union Adult Daycare and Day Health located in Honolulu. Central Union also does take daycare participants in day health. I think it's important for us to note that if we have someone come to tour, if they are truly a daycare participant, meaning that they really can benefit from, they don't have too many medical issues, and they can benefit from a very social program, we definitely would refer them that direction first. And we'd like to see the transition from daycare to day health. And then, it helps that we can refer back and forth to each other. But yeah, it's best to reach out to each of the centers. It's best to tour each center. And when you tour, you definitely want to look at the facility, how clean it is, how spacious it is. Talk with the staff, make sure you feel comfortable with the staff. And like I tell a lot of families, lots of times when you go tour, you'll know which center is the place for your parent. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, is that you're comfortable with the program and that the senior is happy where they're at. So yeah, we highly recommend you call each center and tour each center before you start the enrollment process. And I'll turn it over to Joe with the City and County of Honolulu Elderly Affairs Division. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Joel Nakamura with the Elderly Affairs Division, Grants Manager. Before I go into my presentation, I do want to emphasize the importance of daycare. And I think one of the biggest things that are not mentioned or emphasized enough is the socialization aspect of daycare. And because under Elderly Affairs, we do have a lot of different programs. We see the range of seniors, from the healthy senior programs all the way to the seniors who need assistance in the home. And I think the biggest factor that keeps people healthy is the socialization aspect. And like what Kathy said, even if the person is not an extrovert, they may be introverted, it's still very beneficial for people to attend the daycare. I've heard of cases where seniors do attend the daycare, they don't talk to anybody, but then you hear from the family, the socialization, just being there, listening to other people talk, hearing the presentations, hearing the entertainment, things like that. It keeps the mind sharp. So it's really good to have that socialization aspect. Okay. So Elderly Affairs Division, let me see. We were created out of the Older Americans Act of 1965. No matter where you are in the United States, there is a area agency on aging for your jurisdiction. So for us, our jurisdiction is City and County of Honolulu. In Hawaii, there are 4 area agencies on aging, 1 for each county. It may be different in other states or territories. In some states that have lower populations, they may have 1 area agency for the entire state. And then the bigger states, the higher population ones, they may have multiple ones, and they don't necessarily follow the same structure as us. Where in Hawaii, we're at the county level. In other states, they may be nonprofit agencies or they may be state agencies, but we all receive the same funding through the Older Americans Act, which is intended to provide services for seniors. Also in Hawaii, we have what we call the Kupuna Care Program, and that is with state funds. And under that program, we can use it for adult daycare services. So that's what I'm going to focus on here. A little background on Kupuna Care. It is what we call a gap filling service. It is not an entitlement, welfare, or insurance program. And as such, our funding sources are much more limited, and we are required to prioritize the services because of that limitation. So the people we're focusing on, our target group, is the people who are not poor enough for Medicaid. So once you get Medicaid, Medicaid does have adult daycare as a service, among other services for people who need them. And roughly, to get Medicaid, you need to be in the poverty level. So that's roughly 10% of the population. So what we're trying to target is the people above that, and maybe in the middle income group of the population. So those are people who are not poor enough for Medicaid, but still don't have enough private resources to pay for their own services. Okay. Okay. And we are with the City and County of Honolulu. We do have contracts with a lot of different providers to provide those services. And one of the requirements for our services is a yearly assessment. And the assessment is pretty thorough. It's almost like doing case management, where we collect all of the information, financial information, and also informal supports, family connections, things like that. And that's to help us kind of figure out what the best options are for the seniors based on their own situation. For adult daycare, we currently have about 70 people enrolled in our Kupuna Care program. That kind of does sound like a lot, but when you compare it to the senior population of Oahu, there's over 250,000 people who are 60 years or older on Oahu. So the demand is quite high, and we only can serve a few people relatively, so we have to prioritize. So some of the screening factors we're looking for when people call us to ask for our service is we're looking for people with high levels of care. And we also want to make sure that they are appropriate for a day program. So people who have never been to a day program or daycare, we suggest that they check it out first to make sure that it would be appropriate for the senior. I would suggest going to at least 3. A lot of them are very different. The environments are different, the programs are different. And then you may find one that fits the personality of your senior better. So I would suggest seeing at least 3 centers. For our program, we are looking for people who are having financial hardships. So they need to show that they have difficulty paying for the service. And typically we're looking for people who have discretionary incomes under $1,000. So that's your discretionary income is what's left after you pay for your required expenses. So whether that be your rent, your mortgage, your utilities, medical expenses, things like that. And then people with assets under 100,000. So that's kind of our target group. And then in addition, we have prioritization factors. So people who may have little or no informal supports, maybe they only have one caregiver. And we see that a lot too with sometimes the daughter or son is left to take care of the senior, maybe because they don't have children or they're the ones that live with the senior. So we know that person is at high risk of caregiver burnout. We're also looking for if this caregiver is a senior, disabled, or if they're also employed full-time, because we do want to provide support for those people. What we don't want people to do is quit their jobs to become full-time caregivers. It's better for them to stay in the workforce, to retain their jobs, and because they're retaining their jobs, they can contribute to their own retirement. So we do want to support people who are working. If the person receives SNAP, low income subsidy, Medicare savings program, or other means tested benefits, that's an indication to us already that the person has a very low discretionary income and low assets, because those are means tested programs. And those are programs that are different from Medicaid, because for these programs like SNAP, LIS, MSP, you don't have to be below poverty level. These are people who are also in the gap group, right above poverty level, but still can't afford to pay for services. So these are two examples of cases that we prioritized that we approved for services. So in the first case, the senior is 77 years old. Level of care is 6 ADLs and 8 IDLs. ADLs and IDLs are what we call the activities of daily living, and we use that as a standard to determine level of care. And what that means is, does the senior need assistance with these types of activities? Activities of daily living include things like using the toilet, being able to take a bath, transferring. So transferring is like from sitting down to standing up, or lying down to sitting up, things like that. And then mobility, being able to walk independently. Things, and then IDLs are things like being able to use the telephone, being able to prepare their own meals, things like that. So in this case, the couple, the spouse was the caregiver, and then their total income was about $4,200 a month. And then we do collect information on the expenses. So you can see their rent, insurance, medications, car payments, everything, all of that. They were in the negative every month, after they paid for all of their expenses. So this was considered a high priority. And the level of care, he pretty much needed help with everything. So another example of high priority, example 2. In this case, the person wasn't as disabled physically, but his dementia was pretty bad. So he needed to be queued for a lot of different things. The spouse was still working age, so she was working part-time, and by approving the daycare, she was able to go back to work full-time. And similar to the other case, their discretionary income was in the negative every month. So these are the kinds of cases that we're looking for as far as who we're approving for daycare. I do also want to mention that our funding is limited. We do have about 70 clients right now. Based on the attrition rate, we lose maybe 1 to 2 clients a month. And which means we can bring in about 1 to 2 new people a month. So that's kind of the rate of new clients we're bringing in. So I would say our program is not widely available to everybody, but if you feel like you can show that you need the services or can't afford to pay for it, come to us and get more information or apply. Okay, so more information. This is the website. The first one is the Office of Healthcare Assurance. That's the state licensing agency for daycare centers. So if you want to find the current list, you can always go to that website. The second one is our website, elderlyaffairs.com. We do have a lot of links to different programs. Let me just show that. So this is our website. It's pretty outdated. We're still kind of in the process of waiting to get it revamped, but the links are good. If you go to the first page, you'll see links to different providers that we subcontract with. So Catholic Charities is here. There's also Pupuna Care Pair, Alzheimer's Association, Project Donna, St. Francis, and Kokuo Kalihi Valley. And these are our caregiver programs, which uses our federal funds. Another link I want to show is this is Kupuna Care Pair's website. They have a good section explaining what adult daycare is. So I would suggest kind of reviewing it. And he also has a map showing all of the different locations. So if it's better for you to look at a map to see, kind of figure out where the nearest ones are, I would suggest going to his website. I know some people have a hard time just looking at the list. So if you need something graphic to look at, you can always do that. So again, his website is here, Kupuna Care Pair. Oh, sorry. Okay. The other resource we have is our senior helpline, which is like our information center, call center. We do receive calls for the entire island. So if you do call and you get a busy message, please leave a message and we will call you back. We do only have about 3 or 4 people that answer the senior helpline. And, you know, serving a population with 250,000 seniors, we do get quite a bit of calls. So please be patient with us. We normally do return calls within 48 hours or 2 business days. Okay, and I think that's all I have. So on behalf of all of us, Catholic Charities, thank you for joining our presentation on adult daycare. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, all of you speakers. That was just wonderful. Kathy, Stacy, and Joel. You can stop sharing your slides, Joel, and everybody come back on camera, the panelists, and I'll go off camera and read the questions to everyone that have come in. Thank you so much. One moment. Okay. The first question is, are there any free adult daycare programs in Hawaii? You know, for today, we do have people from neighbor islands that are participating today that may be affiliated with Adult Day on other islands. You know, you can either, you know, chat, you can chat any kind of answer you want. If there's a question about neighbor islands, or let us know that you're there. Okay, this person is asking in Hawaii in general, are there any free adult daycare centers in Hawaii?
There are financial aid programs. I would consider Kupuna Care like a financial aid program. So there is the ability to get subsidized services, but I would say they are very limited. Like I mentioned, Kupuna Care, we only can add maybe 1 or 2 new people a month. A lot of the different centers also apply for their own grants, like Kathy mentioned. Some of them get grants through like GIA or a community foundation where they can help subsidize or pay a portion of the costs. So it may not be entirely free, but you still may get a discount through that subsidy.
Kathy, did you want to say anything about that?
About
Free,
the,
yeah, people are, somebody's asking if there's any free adult day programs in Hawaii.
no, I'm not familiar with any that are free. But like Joel just said, there's a lot of help out there if you can't afford it. You just need to ask.
Thank you. Okay, next question. How can we advocate the effort to get Medicare to include adult daycare?
Okay, the first thing to do is contact your state representative, your senator. You can go online to the National Adult Day Services Association and get more information at that site as well, and they can walk you through how to contact the feds to get that pushed through.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Next question. How are the potential attendees screened for acceptance or refusal to be in an adult daycare program?
Okay, I'm not sure what that means. They come for an assessment after the application is filled out, and the the physical stuff, there's a couple of requirements physically. They come for an assessment, and at that point, the intake person will go through a lot of questions and find out where they are, what their interests are, what their mobility thing is, and the only thing, my criteria, there are only two things. We don't take behavioral issues because that disrupts the I'm gonna say tranquility of the facility, and the fun part. And the other one is, like I think Stacy mentioned this, that they have to be able to stand and pivot to the toilet. They can be in a wheelchair, but they have to be able to stand and pivot because we don't lift. Does that answer the question?
Yes, Stacy, could you answer based on what your criteria are or assessment?
So similar to Kathy, we have to do an assessment. The assessment is pretty thorough for us. It involves the social worker, nursing staff, and they go over all of the medical papers that the doctor provides. And it's a discussion with the family. Shortly after that, the ID team will meet and discuss and decide as a group if the person is accepted into the program or not.
So for all programs, they do have to fill out a medical clearance form. So the doctor has to fill that out to clear them for the service. And then they also have to get their TB test, right?
Mhm.
And in cases where it's hard to tell if they would be appropriate or not, a lot of them will offer a trial period. So they'll say, okay, why don't you come for a few days? Then we'll see how the person reacts in the environment. And, that'll give us a better idea of if they're a good fit or not.
And so all of you feel that it depends on the individual day center, right? That everyone
Yes.
has a little bit of a different, so you have
Yes.
to try. And it was a good suggestion, Joel, to try out 3 or to at least go to 3 if
Right.
you're looking.
So even if one tells you that, we absolutely can't take this person, I would say look at another one, try out another one, because sometimes it's totally different depending on the viewpoint of the assessor, or maybe the environment is just different where the person reacts different. So don't give up, even if you get one reject. Yeah, keep trying.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The other
Okay.
thing is some of my colleagues don't take folks in wheelchairs. I know that. And then some of them will not take people with incontinence issues. But there are those of us that do take all of that. So that shouldn't be a deterrent to finding a place for your loved one.
Thank you. Can Kathy speak a little more about the criteria to be eligible for the partial tuition assistance?
Yes, it's not. It is partial, but the criteria is based on the kapuna's income, not the family's income. So I believe it's less than 60,000 for the income for the kapuna for the person that wants to come to adult daycare. I don't have that grant in front of me, but it's pretty liberal. So if you're interested, you can always ask me. Give me a call or an email, and I'll be glad to discuss it with you.
Can adult daycare participants' schedule be on a day-to-day or week-by-week basis? If so, how much notice must be given to the adult daycare center?
That's a good question.
Yeah. My facilities in particular are, we ask you to tell us at the beginning of the month what days you want to come. It can be a minimum of 2 days, or it can be up to 6 days. But we ask you to fill out a calendar of the days you want to come. That way we can be prepared with the food and the staffing and whatnot to cover all the people that are there. Um, and sometimes if you need to change one of the days that you've chosen, we can be flexible with that. We just need notice for that. But we don't do day to day or week to week. It needs to be a calendar of the month.
Yeah.
Stacey, I don't know what you
Yeah.
do.
I think it's important to look at it as a reservation, like you're reserving a spot for the participant to be in the center. But one of the reasons why a lot of the centers require either a 2-day minimum or 2-day per week minimum is because for the memory issues, it's really hard to see a participant on a Thursday and see them the following Wednesday. So we want some type of routine established, and that helps both the family and the center to get them into the program and, acclimated to the new setting. So
Yeah.
And a lot of them also do will charge a fee if you're a no-show, and it's understandable because they're still paying for the overhead and the staffing. And a lot of it has to do with the staffing ratio because there are laws that require a certain amount of staff for a certain amount of clients. So if you do make reservations or you say you're going to go on these days, but you don't give enough notice and then you don't show up, there may be a fee involved for that. Yeah.
Thank you. So a person who is incontinent of bladder and bowel will not be eligible for adult day health?
That will
um,
be center to center. So I would say you have to check with each one. So I do know some of them do not accept, but others do. Yeah.
for Maluhia, we accept incontinence for both. For both.
Thank
And
you.
we do it all my locations as well.
Thank you. What is needed to apply for adult day health?
For us, we need a post. We need our forms, which is the application, health and physical form. And we also have a doctor's order form that is valid for 30 days. So we need those things completed by the doctor before we can schedule the assessment.
Adult daycare doesn't require the doctor's order. We do require a small a 2-page physical and a 2-step PPD and the application. And that's basically it.
Thank you. Are fees for ADH tax deductible if the caregiver is not working full-time, or is there a limit? Often when I ask about this, I'm told to consult my tax accountant.
Okay, at this point in time, there is a bill before the legislature to give tax credits to caregivers. It's going through. I'm not sure how far it's gotten so far in this legislative session, but keep an eye out because we're working on it.
There's information on the two bills in the chat that you can look and click on the link to find the current status.
Thank you. What is the difference in price between adult daycare and adult day health? Does medical insurance cover adult day health too?
Stacey?
So the difference, well, our center charges 111 per day, which is still very reasonable and affordable compared to home care. And it's not that far away from the cost of adult day care. The second question was, what was the second part of the question?
Yeah, does medical insurance cover adult day health too?
No, but we do accept Medicaid as a form of, Medicaid. And there's also long-term care insurance that may cover services. And we also have a few clients under VA that qualify for services.
In adult day health, there's a range of services, but a range of costs, but my facilities charge $80 a day.
Thank you. Any suggestions for financial assistance? Also, does adult day health accept seniors whose first language is not English?
Yes, we do. We actually have a lot of participants that don't speak any English. Korean, Chinese, Filipino. Luckily, we have an RN that can speak Japanese and staff, of course, that can speak Filipino. But I really don't know how we do it sometimes because we Korean, Chinese, yeah, but somehow we make it work, whether it's using Google Translator on our phones or iPads. Sometimes the family helps us by writing out things in Chinese or Korean, and we show the participant the wording. But those are strategies that I believe all of our centers use to communicate with those that don't speak English.
Yeah, and some specialize in certain languages like Sakura House and Furukawa Living Treasure. They pride themselves on having a lot of Japanese speaking staff and participants.
Yeah, I think
And
Evergreen too, yeah? Yeah, Evergreen.
They're
So
Korean.
Evergreen, Korean, yeah. Evergreen is Korean.
Yeah.
You know, that blanket question, any suggestions for financial assistance? You know, I think we covered it right so far. Or is there anything else about financial assistance that may be of interest to people?
I mean, the only other thing is there are a few nonprofit agencies like Salvation Army that offer the, what is it called? Teresa Hughes grant. But those are very temporary. It would only help a family for like a few months with paying tuition. Other than that, I haven't really heard of any other sources. Usually what we see is the family members all pitching in to try and support the payment. Yeah, whatever the senior cannot cover, there's multiple family members submitting payments to help.
Joel, what does MSP stand for?
That's the Medicare Savings Program. It's designed for people who are not eligible for Medicaid but still have a low income. So I think it's up to about 135% poverty or 150% poverty. And it includes assistance like helping cover the premium costs and also the deductible. I'm not sure if there's other coverages, but it's basically some help with your Medicare costs for people who are not eligible for regular Medicaid.
We have about 14 minutes left until 11:30, and there are 12 questions left. I would say that if you have any more questions, type them, email them to me. But for now, let's just try to finish the 12 that are there. If anyone has to leave at 11:30, speakers, some of you, I don't know if you can stay if there's a little lag at the end, but we'll move on. Given the limited funding for the Kapuna Care program and the great need, are there efforts to get more funds from the legislature?
There are a lot of advocates in the aging services community that are always fighting for that. So Kathy White is one, and then Diane Tarada. So they actually do make incremental changes, I believe, in legislation at times, but the need is growing and it is huge. Our funding has been pretty stagnant if you consider the amount of senior population that has grown, and then also the cost of services. So we do need a lot more assistance. What helps is the data. So we do try to collect as much data on our clients as possible to give that snapshot of the need, the demographics of the people we're serving, and the types of things they're going through. Yeah.
Okay, I think you've covered this. What are the cost ranges for adult day health as opposed to adult daycare? What was it? It was 75 to 111, right? 111 is what you charge, Stacy, for
2011, and I see Jerlene Kawasaki, the director for Central Union, on here. So I don't know if she wants to type in her rates. but both Leahi and Maluhia is 111 for day health.
And Kathy, yours is 75 for regular adult daycare?
Well, my cost is $80, but there are
80.
some that start at 75 and go up to about 95.
Okay, if somebody types in anything about cost on Neighbor Islands, we can share that. What are your options before care home or foster home placement? Not sure what that means.
Adult daycare.
Yeah, that's what I think is the case. Or home
Yeah.
care, which can be more expensive.
Yes, a lot more expensive.
Yes. Is there a waiting list that the elderly can be added to for the Kupuna Care program?
We do have wait lists for most of our services, and as such, we will normally do a screening first and do options counseling. So because we're required to prioritize our services, everybody who applies, most of them will never get the service if we keep adding people to a wait list. So we try to let people know what their other options are if they don't meet the priority criteria. It's not a simple question of to say, I just want to be added to the wait list, because our wait list is, people are added to the wait list only after they go through the whole process of being assessed. But the thing is, we don't want to assess people if they're unlikely to get the service because of the prioritization factors. So, you know, someone who may have a lot of money applies for a service, goes through the assessment process. Because there's always people continuously applying for our services, we have to serve the neediest people first. So it's not an easy question to answer, I guess, but I would suggest maybe calling the senior helpline to get a consultation. It's going to vary depending on everyone's situation. So that's what I would suggest. Yep.
Jerlene from Maui Adult Daycare did type in that the Maui Adult Daycare program rates are from 103, no, the Arcadia, I'm sorry, the Arcadia ones are 103 to 140. And then the Maui Adult Daycare is 64 level 1, 68 level 2, and 78 for level 3. Thank you for that to those people from Maui. So the Maui ranges from 64 to 76 per day. Could you please, Margie and Kathy Couch, could you please type in how many adult day centers that you have on Maui? I know there are a few of them, and unfortunately the Lahaina one burnt down. So I'm just hoping you can share how many. There are several that Maui Adult Daycare has. Next question. Are there adult daycare programs that offer after hours care, such as between 5 and 9 p.m.?
We open at 6 a.m. in the morning, and there's a charge for early drop off before 8. And then we're open until 5 technically, but if somebody needs to stay later, we do have staff that will do that for an hourly charge. But we don't, that wouldn't be a regular basis. It wouldn't be every single day. That'd be a special circumstance.
Yeah, before the pandemic, there were a few that would allow you to stay longer for extra fee on an hourly rate. But after the pandemic, not as many offer that service anymore. But in any case, if it is offered, you would have to pay extra on an hourly basis. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, the Maui folks said there are 3 centers now on Maui and a drop-in site in Hana. And Maui also has the sundowning program on Fridays from 4 to 9 p.m. for an additional $30. That's really great. What level of dementia can adult day care support? Adult day health, asking for both.
Stacey, you want to go?
Well, yeah, we can support up to ICF level. So that's a pretty, I mean, we have some who have lost their ability to speak and communicate. We have I mean, some that need total care, like they need to be fed, they would not know what to do with anything put in front of them. Yeah, so for us, we can take them up to a pretty high level of care before needing like skilled nursing care.
Adult daycare can take folks with advanced dementia as well. When they get to the point where they can't walk or they can't stand, that's when we have to discharge them. But other than that, their dementia, if they don't talk or can't eat by themselves, we can handle all of that.
Yeah, I think the bigger question is, would they be a threat to themselves or others? Because it's a social environment. So that's the concern of the centers, is if the person, because of their dementia, they may lash out to other people or hurt other people.
Yeah, we don't take behavioral issues at adult daycare, like I said earlier. And Stacey, don't you do some behavioral issues? Yes.
Yeah, whereas we would deal with the high behavior issues and try to work with the family and the PCP. Yeah.
Could both of you, Kathy and Stacy, say what percentage of participants in your day centers have some form of memory loss?
At least
100%?
I'd say 90%.
Yeah.
Same
It's
for
interesting.
you?
Yeah, it's interesting though. It doesn't matter. I mean, I have all different levels of dementia progression.
Mhm.
It's like they all meld together. It doesn't seem to be a whole lot of difference when they're doing activities and stuff like that. It's all like I said, a big old ohana in participation.
Thank you. Do you require any applicant to have their COVID vaccines prior to accepting them?
So recently, Maluhia has released that, and we do accept unvaccinated participants.
Yeah, during COVID, during the pandemic, we required it, but now it's sort of tapered off.
Yeah,
Kathy,
but
thank
I
you.
would. Oh, sorry. I would like to add though that we still have a lot of COVID precautions that are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like staff are still required to wear masks. We test all the participants once a week. There's a lot of screening that still is done before they enter the center. So I believe most centers are still keeping up with that part of screening.
Yeah.
Kathy, thank you for remaining open during quarantine. You're probably one of the only ones that did that. Okay, Maui said something here that they do accept behavior issues, Maui Adult Daycare, and there is no required COVID vaccine for Maui. Do we need to be screened before coming for the initial visit to see if the center is good fit for my husband? I think everyone answered that, Joel.
Yeah, I would suggest calling first before you go, to make sure that they have time to talk to you and, do a tour. Yeah. Well, this is a good question, the handy van one.
Yeah. Does the handy van provide to and from services to adult daycare centers?
Yes.
I think we should explain the process, because I think a lot of seniors, the caregivers will let them go on the van at home, and then the senior goes on the van alone, and then someone from the daycare center will help them off. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit of a misconception too of how handy van is just so terrible. But I think when there's a regular drop off to the different facilities, it really becomes a relationship with the driver if it's a regular route. And so yeah, we really don't have too many problems with those coming on handy van. And we encourage it so that the caregiver doesn't have to deal with driving to the center, walking them out. We feel it's a good benefit for the caregiver as well.
What are the general hours for adult daycare and adult day health?
Well, like I said, we're open from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. or later if needed.
They're all different, but it's basically the working hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
5.
what is the criteria to be sent home sick and to be able to return from being sick? Also, if the person calls in sick, can they possibly return on a non-scheduled day or two later?
Yeah. If they are vomiting, if they have a temperature, if they're just saying they don't feel good, then the families are called to come and pick them up. What was the other part of the question?
If the person calls in sick, can they possibly return on a non-scheduled day or two later?
Yes, if we're not full, but yes, usually there's not a problem.
Yeah. Those are things the family just needs to work out with the center and communicate with, because most centers try to be very flexible in allowing the makeup day. And I think most centers try their best to keep the participant there as long as possible without having to call the family. So we know that if we call you to come and pick up, it's a hardship for you as well. Yeah. So we'll call if they're really sick.
And Kathy, do you have an estimated date for when your Kaneohe site is opening?
Well,
Well, that's a good question.
I'm going to say the end of March, and that's about as close as I can come at this point in time. But we are at the verge of really being able to push forward now, and we are going to work day and night to get it finished. So I'm going to say the end of March.
And you were going to open one in Kona too. Is there, how long might that take?
Well, I'm working with the AAA on Big Island to find a good location, and then there's all the other stuff that has to come after that. But the location is the first priority, and the AAA and I are checking with the commercial real estate people on what's available. There's not a whole lot available, so we're looking at that right now. So that's going to be a while. Probably, I wouldn't say before summer.
Just going back to Maui, Maui was open during COVID, and also the same for Arcadia's adult daycare on Maui, that they don't require COVID vaccines to attend anymore. Maui still meets the needs for Lahaina families at our central centers with transportation provided. I know that the Lahaina Center burnt down in the fire, but luckily everyone left before the fire got out of control, and that they would have to help those people that were affected. Thank you so much, Maui, for all of that.